People who are no longer bound by NDAs. What are some surprising secrets that you can expose? In a tech support role, one manager used to boast his team's average call times were the lowest in the company. While average call times were in the 12 to 17 minute range, his team was constantly under 10 minutes. His team was awarded multiple times and his strategy was adopted company-wide to all customer service and technical support teams, including our internal IT teams. That strategy was under a strict NDA, as we did not want to allow competitors to emulate it. When our call center would go bid on contracts, it became an awesome metric. Our customer satisfaction scores are on par, but we have call times 20 to 30% lower than our competitors. The dirty secret of the NDA that I was not allowed to disclose. There. Big method? Just hang up on people. Straight up. Find a way to say, okay, go ahead and do that and call back if it doesn't fix it. Then hang up. Don't wait for confirmation. Okay, so reboot your PC and your problem should be solved. Thanks for calling. Click. Eventually, they came out with more useful metrics that track things like first call resolution, which absolutely shredded this company, and they went out of business a year or two later. I once got hurt at work, a concussion specifically, on camera. I have a history with concussion-like symptoms. I was 99% sure I hit my head, but I lost all memory of the accident. I ended up missing a few weeks of work due to the severity. I wasn't 100% sure if I had some sort of mental breakdown, so asked to see the video so that I could confirm my injury. They flat out refused to let me see the video and told me there was no evidence that I hit my head. I offered to sign away any rights to sue, and I wasn't even asking them for hospital bills or paid time off. Long story short, I sued them, I won, and had to sign an NDA. I got my wages and hospital bills paid that I wasn't even asking for, and was finally able to get the video. It was a 100% no doubt head injury, complete with a loud bonking sound effect and me falling down and leaving a dent in the bulkhead that I hit. After the fact, the office staff told me that they were under orders from upper management to lie and saw they didn't see anything on the tape. They said this was standard for anyone who gets hurt, to just lie about it and let it play out in court. I obviously quit soon after. For future reference, an NDA can't prevent you from reporting a crime. Even if the original incident was an accident, the cover-up could potentially be criminal. Manipulation of data to give false impressions of reliability was something I saw quite blatantly utilized with little repercussions. My company was struggling to meet on-time delivery schedules and for numerous years was as embarrassingly low as 40%. A new manager comes in and within months we are now boasting an on-time delivery rate on a brilliant 95%. Turns out all he did was change what constituted an on-time delivery. Each time we knew a product would be late, we notified the customer of the delay and asked them to confirm they still wanted the order. If they still wanted the product, the on-time delivery would be recorded against the new expected date as opposed to the original promised date. Company literature was being sent out boasting of our 95% on-time delivery, now amongst the highest in the industry, when in fact we were by that point meeting less than 30% of initial delivery schedule targets. It was so simple that I'm sure numerous companies are getting away with such underhand tricks. Reminds me of the airport that was constantly getting complaints about how long it took for the checked baggage to arrive at the pickup point, so they just made people walk 10 minutes further so they weren't waiting as long. Having breezed through the very front of the massive immigration queue on account of being first off the bus from the tarmac last week, only to wait 45 minutes for bags. Yeah, humans hate waiting, and love the appearance of progress almost as much as progress itself. The private school I worked for was for students identified with giftedness. The owner of the school administered the giftedness test. Can you pay the tuition? You're gifted. Can your sibling pay? Them too. Your cousin? Neighbor? Kid you know across town? You're all gifted. My son went to a private school for the gifted. It was really a school for the financially gifted. About 20 years I signed an NDA with a very large record company regarding their attempts to get into selling their catalog online, streaming, sales, etc. It was a minefield because they were still wary of pissing off high street retailers. And that's where the charts came from. These attempts were frustrated by their top-level corporate guys. One week they all went to a "What is an MP3?" conference in Buenos Aires to get them up to speed. The thing is, they spent so much time partying, the only talk which seemed to stick was the scare tactics about how teens could scrape MP3s from the web, and they could be copied and redistributed easily. When they came back, every item in the catalog was ordered to be scrubbed from the web. Number 30-second previews. Nothing should be audible. Not a hint of audio. Lock it all down. Put all the tapes in a chest and seal it with concrete at the bottom of the sea. That's gonna make everyone go back to CDs. Good old profitable CDs. Good thing there's no way for an end user to make MP3s out of a CD. I was never under an NDA, but the hotel is under new ownership, so I guess I can say it now. The hotel had no internet connection starting around 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like clockwork, every night. I don't know if it was just a system fault, or if it was cost cutting. But without internet, the security cameras didn't work, or record anything. The fire alarm system doesn't work either. The alarms go off, but it doesn't call for help. So if we had a fire that started at 3 a.m. for example, then unless someone else that's driving by calls it in, I have no idea what's happening. One night we had an assault happen in the parking lot. The police needed camera evidence, and our cameras didn't record anything because the internet was out. So that was fun explaining to the detectives. Pro tip: only ever install hardwired cameras. Wi-Fi cameras can easily be deactivated by a simple Wi-Fi jammer. That's what thieves are using when stealing cars from dealerships. I worked for a website creation company back in 1999, managing the website for a big brand large bank that was sponsoring a round-trip paid ticket to the Super Bowl. I worked on the website that collected all the entries, and I posted the rules that the company's legal department wrote to describe the rules of the contest. A random winner was to be selected for the prize, and I wrote a software tool to randomly pick the winner to be used when the contest was over. When the contest ended, I was told to forget my tool, forget the rules, just look in the database and find someone in South Florida, where the Super Bowl was in 1999, so the company wouldn't have to pay for airfare. In Prince George's County, Maryland, county transit bus drivers are instructed following an accident they are not to speak to anyone until a supervisor arrives on the scene. An approved method for not talking, especially to other drivers involved, is to feign injury. There's actually money allotted to pay the fines related to wasting 911 and emergency resources, because analysts determined it was cheaper than costs associated with drivers accidentally admitting fault. There's also an entire audit and analysis team related to accidents because of the sheer volume of people who falsely claim to be on a bus during an accident. Fortune 500 real estate long time ago. We know about the black mold problem. We always knew. We do not disclose it. We intentionally do not look into. We don't want to know exactly what kind it is. Because if it's dangerous, then we legally have to spend money to fix it. The only department that is allowed to talk about the black mold problem is press and PR, because only they know how to bury it correctly. That was not a great work culture. IT consultant of many, many winters. The most critical applications in banking, insurance and finance run on badly outdated machines held together by duct tape, prayers and compress and dust, standing in dark, wet corners and mostly forgotten basements. Also, those systems are written in the most obscure and long-dead programming languages, or even directly in assembler for a certain chipset, written by code wizards in their own idiosyncratic dialects, who are now long retired or even dead. Backup systems are mostly non-existent, or the data tapes are worn down to basically transparent tape. Even had a case around 2020 where a cleaning tape from '99 was still in the bay, due to the robot being faulty. If a cleaner or janitor pulls the wrong plug to find an outlet for their vacuum, there is a decent chance that whole branches or even institutions begins to crumble. Most of those systems will also never be updated due to their legacy status, aka we don't know what this is doing, or even how it is doing what it is doing. But it is a critical part of our whole infrastructure and nobody dares to touch it. But we will never invest the necessary sums to analyze those systems, write documentation, or even replace them. Was never bound to an NDA somehow, but sat in to oversee the technical aspects of Herbalife meetings. We're talking meetings with the highest level sellers and their board. They spoke about how to manipulate low-income and unintelligent people to make them millions of dollars. How to teach others to scam others to make them more money. Herbalife reps were told to specifically target single mothers, as the concept of working from home, before it was mainstream, along with the possibility to bolster their tight finances, were the best prey of such pyramid schemes. One surprising secret is how many products marketed as handmade or artisanal are actually mass-produced in factories overseas. Brands rely on clever wording to sell the image of small-batch craftsmanship, but behind the scenes, it's often a far cry from what's advertised. Worked at a hospital specializing in cancer care. They were doing something new, actually targeting the type of cancer with the right type of chemo. Most cancer centers do not. So suppose you get cancer C. But the insurance company's gov mandates you get chemo for cancer A/B before treatment for C. As the money increases by like tenfold. Downside for the patient with cancer C is they have to endure way more bouts of chemo than if they just targeted cancer C. So if you ever find yourself in that really bad boat, make sure your doctor's treatment plan is for the right cancer vice for the wrong checkbook. This is the most disturbing response so far. Jesus Christ. This is how most insurance works. My doctor prescribed me a specific inhaler for my breathing issues. Insurance won't touch that until I've unsuccessfully tried like 9 other cheaper ones. Ones that aren't the same medicinal ingredient either. I worked for a company that oversees and enforces self-regulation for one of the power grids in the United States. My job was to help secure it against cyber attacks and to help write the regulations that enforce those protections. I had panic attacks on Sunday nights because I knew at work the next morning we'd go over the list of everything not compliant, and the lawyers would argue they were, and nothing would get done. Many times the lawyers would tell me that I wasn't interpreting what was written correctly. Then I'd remind them that I wrote ID with a committee, and if they didn't believe me they could go look at the minutes taken in the meetings. Instead, they would just document their justifications for being compliant and not actually secure anything. The US power system is now so vulnerable to cyber attacks that it is only a matter of time before millions of people have their lives thrown into complete disaster and potentially hundreds of thousands that will die. I just can't even think about how bad things are now. Tesla and Rivian electrical components are made in the same facility by a large electronic manufacturer and even share personnel. This once caused Elon to throw a fit and threaten to take the contract somewhere else. The solution? For the next visit, the company separated the lines by a wall and told Elon they had ended the Rivian contract. They still produce both and also the components for the new Ford electric models. Early 2000s, I worked in the clothing department at Walmart, and one night I was handed a memo that I was to secretly cut out all the tags on a list of product that said, "Made in Myanmar," because the brand was suddenly trying to hide that they were doing business there. I believe it was Hanes. I worked at a startup that tracked employee happiness, supposedly so they can make employees happier, but in practice it seemed they were preemptively getting rid of unhappy employees. No need to wait for them to quit. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.